Welcome to Obsidian for tabletop RPGs. Let's learn how to use the tool. G'day guys, and welcome back today to another Obsidian video. Today we're going to be having a look at how to get your content from DnDBeyond into Obsidian. It's a bit of a process, so this is not a video that's designed for beginners, but hopefully we'll do it in a way that you can follow along quite nicely. The process doesn't take long, but it does require some third-party components. For this situation here, you will require FoundryVTT, for example. But just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, if we come over here and have a look, you can see I've got a Foundry import folder, and if we expand that out, you can see I've actually brought in the Tomb of Horrors. So we can see here I've got the Tomb of Horrors note up. I have not done anything with this, guys. I have literally just finished hitting the import button. It's just come straight into Obsidian like this, and it's ready for me to start massaging into the way that I want it to work. You can see here that it's even got some linking that is working. Alright, there is some stuff that's a little bit messy that's going to require a bit of cleaning up, but outside of that, I think we're onto something here, and I think this could be a really neat way to get the content that you own, right? So content that you've purchased in DnDBeyond into Obsidian, so you can use it in a more customizable way. Alright, but let's jump in and let's have a look. Alright, so how do we go ahead and do this? Well, the first thing you're going to want to do is come over here to obsidianttrpgtutorials.com. Alright, that's my new tutorial website that I've created using Obsidian Publish, where I'm starting to host all of my videos and my tutorials, hopefully in a logical manner to help you obviously get started with this tool. Now, this video is not designed for new members, alright? This is what I call an amber video. It's a medium difficulty, alright? So proceed with caution if you are brand new to this, but we are going to require some additional stuff. What we need to do though is come here to community supported games. We're going to come in here, come down to Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and then come down and have a look at the support that's available. And you can see here I've listed a whole heap of sort of different things that are available for 5th edition. Alright, so you've got the fantasy stat blocks, you've got community created content for the SRD, we've got fantasy calendars, for example, right? There's a lot of things that we can do for 5th edition, probably more than any other system if I'm completely honest. The support is amazing. Alright, but how do we import the content that we own? Come down here to import content and expand this out. And you can see here that I've written a tutorial on how to do this process. Now, this is a high-level tutorial at this point. I'm probably going to update this with some more detail as we go along and fluff it out with this video, for example. But let's get started and jump in and see how this works. Alright, so here you can see I'm in FoundryVTT. Alright, so I've purchased my license, I've downloaded and installed it, and I've opened it up. And this is kind of like the page you come to when you first sort of log into this tool. You can see I've got a game world here, and I've got 3 game worlds. We're going to be working in my Deadly Depth in one. This is like just my 5th edition world, but I've also got some other worlds here as well. If you're new to this tool, well, basically worlds are kind of like Obsidian vaults. Alright, it's kind of like your instance where you have a selection of stuff that you're obviously storing in one single place. We've got game systems over here. I do recommend you go ahead and install the D&D 5th edition game system. Alright, so you can just click on install systems and pick them from the list. Alright, there's a lot of support for different systems, but really what we need to do here is go to add-on modules, and we need to install this DDB importer. Alright, this is the plugin that's going to empower everything today. So click here and go install module. Once it loads, we can come here and type DDB, and you can see that that option comes up. It's by Mr. Primate, and you can go ahead and install that. And once you've installed that, we can exit back out of there, come back to Game Worlds. We're now ready to dive in. Alright, so we're going to click Launch World to launch into our world. Alright, we've now loaded the world, and you can see this is like looking a bit more like a VTT now. You can see I've got the map that my players are currently going through. I've got all sorts of stuff loaded here. Now, obviously I play with a digital TV table. We play physically, so I don't use a lot of this. If anyone's out there, you're pure Foundry users, you might be seeing things that just aren't being used. All I use is the maps and the fog. Alright, we're going to come up here to the game settings. So come up here, click in there, and what we want to do is go down here to manage modules. Manage modules is where the installed plugins are going to be listed for you. And basically the modules are installed in the background of Foundry, but they're actually not enabled unless you enable them in your specific world. So we need to come in here and click DDB Importer, save the module settings. That's going to reload the tool. And now we should have that plugin enabled. And the way to check is you can come up here to the compendium packs. Alright, you can come here to see this button up the top called DDB Muncher, and you can click that, and that should open up the obviously UI for this. Now, I've come in here, and the first thing it's done is said, alright, you're actually not configured. So we need to follow these instructions in order to get here. Okay, now, as you can see down here, there's a cookie monster section, and there's some ways of finding this information that we need. So we need to get something called a Cobalt cookie. Alright, it's basically a code, and my understanding is allows us to link into the DnDBeyond page that we're going to have open. But we're going to go use my Chrome or my DDB data grabber to get this with a click. So we can come here to the Chrome plugin. Alright, you can see the releases here on the right, so you can click that to get the latest release. Find the one that's obviously good for you. Now, sometimes you'll find different support for systems here. So it might be a Windows file or it might be a Linux file, but there's just one option here. So DDB importer Chrome, download that. If you're not using Chrome, you might be able to use one of the other processors to get this. It is possible just to go into the background and get this code as well. But we've installed that. All right, once I've downloaded that, obviously it downloads, we then can basically come in and export that. And what I've done is I've downloaded it and I've exported it into this folder, and it's now ready to go. Alright, so from Chrome, what do? We come up here to the dots, we come down here to extensions, and we go manage extensions. Alright, up in the top right you can see developer mode. Now I've got that enabled. If you don't have it, you can just tick that. And what that does is that unlocks this load unpacked button. We're going to use that to click and basically come in here to our downloads folder. Come up to the area where we've exported it. Select the folder, and you can see now Mr. Primate's DDB importer is now installed and it's enabled. Alright, so you can enable it up there. Alright, now from there, what can I do? Now, I do believe we need to open up DnDBeyond for this to work. So let's go ahead and open up DnDBeyond. I believe the website has to be open for this to work. Alright, so we've got DnDBeyond, it's now open here. I'm going to click my extension button, click Mr. Primate's DDB importer, get the cookie. I don't know if that should do something, but let's have a look. Yep, I've copied that cookie into my, it's basically just Control-C it, right? So it's in my clipboard, and now I can go back to Foundry and I can paste my code and click save. Now don't share this cookie with anyone else, guys. I don't know if there's any danger there, but just common sense tells me don't let anyone else have your cookie. Alright, I've now got my cookie. I can now click the DDB Muncher again, and now we get a different screen is opened, and now we're ready to start using this tool. Alright, now I want to call out here that this is a pretty extensive tool, and you can see there's support for spells, item, monsters, adventures, characters, quite a bit. And if we go back to the Obsidian TTRPG tutorial site, you'll see here that I've got a video from the actual developer of this tool, alright, that walks through how to use the different components of it. I'm going to walk through how to do an adventure today. Alright, adventures for me are one of the things that probably take the most amount of my time now. I have all the monsters, I have all the spells, I have all the items, right? I've had those for years through other methods that obviously, you know, are around. This one here though I want to use for adventures because I don't want to type my adventures in, guys. I don't want to copy and paste, it's a lot of work. But I do recommend if you want to explore those other things that you go through and watch this video, because while the process from what I'm about to show you now is a little bit different, alright, the adventures requires an additional tool, there is some really cool stuff you can do. So if you want to explore spells and items and all that, you can go through and watch that video. Alright, but we've gone through, we've enabled it, we now need to basically, where are we going? We're now ready to confirm the DB importer. I'm going to come back here to this tool, we're going to come to adventures, alright, and we need to generate an adventure muncher config file. Alright, so we're going to click that button, that's going to generate the file, we're going to save that into downloads, you can see I've already done that. Alright, now here's the getting started guide. I do recommend, again, that you open this and you have a little bit of a play, because always read the README, guys, always. Alright, so come here, come through. There's a YouTube guide, that's the one I just pointed you to. There's an install, so we need to install the DD importer module in Foundry. We've done that, alright. So we've gone through and done that. We need to get the adventure muncher to generate an adventure to import into Foundry using DDB importer. Alright, so again, DDB adventure muncher, it's pointing to the latest release here already. We're going to come in here and we're going to find the version that's applicable to what we're using. I'm on a 64-bit version of Windows, alright, so I'm going to download the adventure muncher file here. That's going to download. From there I'm going to run the installer, alright, and then what that does is basically it gives me this application. Now, I did find that I needed to run this application in administration mode for this to work, alright, and it does say that in the FAQ that that's a common issue. So if you do have any issues, just basically come in here, right click the icon and try run as administrator, and that could work. Now here you can see that I've already got this configured, but when you come in it's actually not going to look like this. It should look a bit more like this. We're going to reset the whole thing. Maybe not. Anyway, doesn't matter. Oh, yep. Cool. Here we go, checking config. So the config's now reset. We can now come in and, but this is what you should look like when you first come into this tool. We can see checking config. I'm going to load the config file. Now, what I do is I go to where I downloaded that config file before. So adventure-config.json. I load that. That's loaded. No output location selected. So where would I like to save this content? And I'm going to save it into a Foundry import folder that I've created. Alright, so that's now going to go into there. And now I can actually come in here and select the book that I want to actually do. Alright, so it's got a list of the books that I own or I have access to. So in some cases my players own books and have shared them with me. So I can use this same process there. What have we got? You know what? Tasha's Culture of Everything. You know, I might do the Radiant Citadel. This could be a relatively big one, actually. You know what? I'm going to do Lost Mines of Foundelver just because of the size. Alright, I don't want this video to go on for too long, and this process can take a while. Now, there's some options here. Journals and tables observable by all players. I think that's just a permission thing, so I didn't press that. Alright, I'm not using this tool for it, but obviously if you were, you could use that. Create handouts for images. Yes, I want that. Create handouts for player images. Yes, I want that. Create handouts for notes. Yes, I want that. Alright, and then we've got a generate button. Now, there is an important button down here, support me on Patreon. I will call out that this tool is supported by Patreon if you want to go and give this developer some love. And he's got additional support that unlocks when you go through the Patreon. So there are certain elements of this import process that might not work as easily, but if you go to the Patreon, then that support is provided. But for an adventure, we're going to click generate. And look, at this point, guys, you can go and get a coffee. Alright, it's going through, it's connecting to DnDBeyond. Alright, it's downloading it. Now, you do have to have the actual DnDBeyond open for this to work. Alright, and what it's doing is it's scraping the website, is my understanding. Scraping that and getting all of the data. So this is going to take, I don't know, a couple of minutes maybe. You can see it's unzipping now already. It's a pretty small adventure, if I'm honest. But if you were to do something bigger, then obviously it's going to take a little bit more time. Alright. So currently unzipping, we'll just wait for that to complete. You can tell I'm not a patient person. Here we go, processing it. Now my understanding as well, this is community, obviously, well this is community support right here, but the community also come in on top of this process and they write the ability for, or create the ability for this tool to work with the different adventures. So just a heads up on that. I love community tools that are empowering us with better data and ease of use. It's getting stuck on row 34. Oh, does not like row 34. Alright, there we go. Successfully generated lmop.fvttadv. For anyone who's not aware, that is like a FoundryVTT import package. Alright, so the current book version is 16, last known supported version is 15. Alright, so basically something's happened, something's been updated on the DnDBeyond site, it's at version 16, the community hasn't updated that yet, but you know, it could potentially still work. Alright, you can find a list of how complete scene passing for each adventure is here, so there's some extra support, but we're now done there. Alright, so we're going to minimize that, and what we're going to do is we're going to go back to Foundry. Alright, import generated adventure. Alright, so we're now back in Foundry. We come to DnDBeyond. Let's just go into quieten old Discord. We can see basically we come down here to the adventures section. Alright, and we're going to come here to import generated adventure. Alright, from here we're going to choose file. And remember that I stored it in my F drive under Foundry import, and we can see there is that file that was created. So it's a 42 meg file, it's not too bad. We're going to go through, double click that. Alright, I'm going to import all scenes, I'm going to import all monsters, I'm going to link journals to world actors, and then what I found is I did this last night. So I did import adventure to adventure compendium. I didn't figure out how that worked, but import adventure to world did seem to work. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to click that. Alright, it's processing this. You can see there's a message here about some monsters that are missing, and it says link to the Patreon or use your own proxy if you want to configure that out. That's a more advanced process, guys. As I said, I have the monsters already in my Obsidian, so I don't need these. Alright, and now we're here and we have an OK button that says, alright, Lost Mines of Foundelver is now complete, so we're going to click OK. Alright, that's actually it for the Foundry side. Alright, we can see what it's done if we come over here to the journals section or the scenes section. Alright, we can see that the maps have been created. Alright, we can probably come in here to the actors. No actors. What else have we got? We got... what are these? Journal entries. This is what I'm after. Alright, this is the journal entries that have been created in this tool. That's what I want. But I want them over in Obsidian. Alright, so it's got some really cool stuff. You can see it's got some links that aren't working. That's fine. We're not going to use those. Alright, so now we're going to jump back into Obsidian. I'm going to do the next step. Alright, so we're back in Obsidian. We're going to go down to Settings. We're going to go to Community Plugins, Browse, and what we're going to type is Foundry. Alright, we can find this module here called Import FoundryVTT Journal. It's made by Farling. Anyone who doesn't know Farling, he's the absolute wizard that created us the CSV JSON import tool. Alright, he's got fantastic tools for both Foundry and for Obsidian. He's also been a heavy user of Realmworks over the years and made fantastic tools for that. You know, this is a guy who deserves some coffee, guys, if we should throw coffee at anyone. But we can go through, do the install, do the enable. While you're here, you can read about it. Alright, there's not a lot to this one. It's relatively works in the background. And we can see here that do we want to show the ribbon? Alright, do we want to show the magnifying glass? So I'm going to leave that on so we can see it. If we close out of that, you should see now that down the bottom of your list of left-hand icons is an Import Foundry magnifying glass. Click on that. Alright, a very simple window opens up. From here we can choose our file. Alright, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. Alright, now I'll show you the trick to this. So what you do is you go to Foundry. You return to your setup. Alright, from the settings button, return to setup. From here you can go to configuration, and here there's a path called user data path. So if you copy that and then go to just an Explorer, alright, Windows E, and paste that in, you'll see it comes to your FoundryVTT data folder, and this is where all your user data gets stored. And from here what we do is we go to data, Alright, from here we can see that we've got a few different things going on, but I'm going to go into worlds. I'm going to pick my world. Mine is the Deadly Depth In, so DDI. Go into there. From here I can see a few different options, but I can see a data folder. And in here I can see my journal.db folder file, and that's what I want. That contains the data. So I'm going to right click, copy this address as text. And I'm going to go back to Obsidian, and in this file here, so the choose file screen, I can now paste that URL in there, which brings me to this screen. Alright, from there I can pick the journal.db folder, and you can see that is, you know, what the instructions here. So choose journal.db file to import. So we're going to click that. That's now ready. I've got a folder already created called Foundry Import, so I'm going to import into there. I'm going to click Create Folder Notes because I love folder notes. I'm going to use those. I'm not using Aiden LX's folder notes anymore. I'm using a new one called just Folder Notes, and it seems to work fine with that. And then there's the import button. So we press that, and we sit back, and we watch, and we wait. Alright, so that process is now finished now, and I didn't record it because it took quite a bit of time. But basically up the top here you could see the process, and it did say import completed at one point, and I thought it was finished, but it was still actually going. Literally just let that go and just sit back, guys, and wait for it to happen, because what I found is it created the folders first, and when I went and had a look at it, there was no content in there. It was just a case though it was still going, and I just had to sit back and wait for a couple of minutes for it to finish. It probably took 4 minutes for it to do, alright, but as you can see over here, it's now done. Alright, now we've got folders, we've got all sorts of stuff going on here, we've got handouts that have been created, and these are just basically designed as pictures to be shared for with the players. But I think the bit that's really important here is that Foundry import. I'm going to go in Lost Mines of Foundelver, and then I can come down here and I can find like the introduction. There's the maps. Introduction, the adventure hook, right? So we've got the text, and for me, that is really what I'm looking for. Now, this is pretty raw, as in like it's just text, and there is some stuff in here that obviously has some UIDs that look a little bit crazy. Now, these here are obviously linking to something. They're UIDs that are linking back to something that has not been configured properly. So there might be some work here, right? You can see that this is meant to be linking to Nesnar. Alright, you might need to go through and just clean this up a little bit. I'd probably also recommend doing a reload without saving after you've completed the import. And the reason for this is just to make sure that Obsidian fully understands that all this content is here, it's all cached, it's all ready to rock and roll. Alright, so I'll just do that now. My vault is getting massive, so it's taking longer and longer to open. Alright, looks like that's all in though. Alright, it's got some links to images and stuff that haven't yet created. So there we go, right? As far as I'm concerned, this is now in a really positive way for me to start using this content. And what I would do from here personally is I would start going through things like the Goblin Arrow, for example. We got handouts, there's part 1, Goblin Arrow. We got the Cragmore Hideout. Alright, we've got the different spots. I would probably replace this with an actual Obsidian leaflet map. Alright, got another video on that if you want to see it. I would go through and read all the different areas on like what is, what's going to happen. You know, are there any fights that are going to go on? I think from memory, and it's been 10 years since I ran this module. The goblins in area 7, Goblin Den. So there should be some goblins in here somewhere. Alright, I just want to go through and obviously just add those in. Just to give you an idea of what I would do. Goblin Den, let's just go through and let's add some goblins. Alright, so I'm going to do Alt-T to open my templates, type in counter, insert a counter, and here I'll have to obviously read the module and figure out how many there are, but it might be 3 goblins, and this might be the Twin Pools Cave fight. Alright, and that way I now have the ability to actually trigger that combat over here, and off we go. So there's a little bit of work to clean it up. There might be some fancy ways to actually improve this, like maybe being a patron gives you access to all of these missing elements, for example. But I would say 95% of the heavy lifting is done. You can now go through, you don't even need to do too much formatting, add your maps, add your encounters, maybe highlight any text that you want like calling out for yourself. That's something I like to do. You might want to make some call out boxes, but besides that, you're pretty much good to go. Look, even some of the linking actually works. Alright, so anyway, hope that's been useful. That's how you go through and import content from DnDBeyond into your content. And just a reminder that I have released my new website, Obsidian TTRPG Tutorials, where if you are new, you can come along and get access to all of my tutorials. Right, I've basically lifted it all in here at this point. If I haven't put an old video in here, it's because I don't recommend that video anymore. All right, just a heads up on that. But I've put it in order, in functionality, so you can come through, figure out what you want, and there's even like plugin links here that you can click to go straight into Obsidian and install that. Alright, so it should make life a lot easier for you guys. Anyway, outside of that, I hope this has been useful for you. I want to say a massive and huge thanks to all of my patrons. You're obviously keeping me motivated to obviously keep developing more cool stuff for you guys like this website. That's not going to stop. You guys are amazing. Outside of that, if you'd like to catch me, if you need help, you can come along to this website, come to community and support, and you will see links in here both to my Patreon if you would like to sign up to support me, but there's also links in here which are more important in my mind, which is the TTRPG community Discord. Alright, get in there, click that, join the server, alright, and then from there you will find that there is a massive amount of activity going on. Alright, we have a very large, very active community. They're building all sorts, they're talking all the time. Discord's a little bit slow, but basically they're in there, and if you need help, you can come down into here, you can come down to the, where do we put it? We put it up the top, Obsidian support. Alright, there's all these buttons up the top, you can actually click and say, alright, I have a problem with Leaflet. Now you can come in and you can say that there's all these different issues that have been raised for Leaflet, and you might be able to actually find your issue already solved previously. Alright, and if you can't find what you're looking for, you can always raise a new post. Don't forget to tag it with the type of category that it is, and then the community can come to your aid and try and help you out. Alright, I do want to remind everyone that this is community-driven support. No one in here is a paid developer, not really, unless people are like getting a whole lot of coffee paid for them. So, alright, outside of that, guys, have a great day, and I will speak to you on the socials.